To the Next News Network. Between the headlines, I'm Gary Franchi, back in studio after my excursion to Milwaukee to see J.D. Vance take down the fraud machine there, expanding his investigations with the Fraud Task Force as well as with Dr. Oz. It was an amazing event, and especially amazing was meeting Valerie there, who recognized me and reached out. It's always a pleasure when I get a chance to meet you guys in public. Don't be shy. Come up and say hello. It helps remind me just how big our family is. I do the news here all the time, and I'm staring at a camera, but I don't get a chance to see you guys. And when I do, it is truly heartwarming. So, Valerie, this show is for you. Good evening. I'm Gary Franchi, Next News Network Chief White House Correspondent, bringing you the latest White House news from the past 24 hours in partnership with Trump Daily Post. Tonight, the headline sits squarely on the administration's economic push. Trump accounts surged to nearly $125 million in contributions from American families in just 5 days alone, as the White House also celebrated Micron's more than $250 billion U.S. investment plan, continued working families tax cut relief, and a border security message centered on stopping suspected terrorists in their tracks. It's a forward-driving picture of an administration that's pushing growth, jobs, tax relief, and national strength all at once. And now to the full White House rundown from the pool. President Trump arrived at Joint Base Andrews at 1 a.m. this morning after returning from the United Kingdom. During the flight, he spoke with reporters for about 15 minutes and made clear that a change of planes was not tied to a security issue, saying the move gave service members at the base a chance to see the aircraft. The president also touched on the recent military action against Iran, saying the United States hit Iran 20-1, and he pointed to ongoing talks with NATO allies, possible troop movements in Europe tied to negotiations involving Greenland, the housing bill, voter ID legislation, Venezuela, Medicare, coverage of the GLP-1 drugs, and the situation involving Graham Plattner, who has since closed up his campaign. He also said he's not spoken with Senator Mitch McConnell after McConnell's hospitalization. Minutes later, at 1:26, the president departed Joint Base Andrews. He waved to the press on the way out after speaking with reporters multiple times during the previous day. Then at 1:48 a.m., the motorcade returned to the White House. A lid was called at the same time, closing out a 53-hour travel stretch for the press pool and ending in the overnight return. According to the daily guidance for Thursday, July 9th, the president's official schedule began with executive time at 8 a.m. The day then moved to a 1 p.m. intelligence briefing, a 3 p.m. signing time in the Oval Office, and 2 Oval Office policy meetings at 4 and 5 p.m. All those events were closed to the press with no public appearances on the schedule. Then the in-town press pool included outlets from across the White House beat with pool call set for 9 a.m. Eastern. In a later White House press note, the press office announced a lunch lid in effect till 1 p.m. with no changes to the president's schedule during that period. As for the broader White House message driving the day, the administration kept the focus on results. Trump accounts posted an early surge with nearly $125 million contributed by families in 5 days, a major marker for the president's push to build long-term financial security for the next generation. The White House also highlighting Micron's plan to raise U.S. investment above $250 billion through 2035, including a major New York fabrication project expected to create tens of thousands of jobs. The administration also kept pressing the benefits of the working families' tax cuts, including the expanded child tax credit for the policies of no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security, while tying those kitchen table wins to a broader message of economic renewal. On security, the White House emphasized stronger border enforcement and the stopping of suspected terrorists, underscoring the administration's continued focus on sovereignty and law and order. And that is the White House picture from the past 24 hours. A late-night return, a closed-door day of intelligence, signing, and policy work, and a public message centered on investment, tax relief, jobs, and border security. And now we have the wider headlines ready coming next, so let's move straight into the rest of today's top stories and welcome you to the broadcast. Yeah, it looks like we've got some of these issues cleaned up with the stuttering of the camera. I think we've got that all fixed up. Looking good, looking clean, looking sharp. And it's great to see you here on today's broadcast. So what are we going to do today? Well, we've got some news. We're going to talk about Zelensky and those attacks with respect to Iran. We've got more from the courtroom in the Tyler Robinson case against Charlie Kirk, the murder, the assassination. Also, we'll have more on the Air Force One, the plane swap, which kind of caught everybody off guard, what President Trump said there, as well as what was going on with the Iran strikes. Also, we're going to talk about what happened in Milwaukee just yesterday. Judge Dugan, you're going to be shocked if you haven't heard this, but we're going to bring you the latest on Judge Dugan. Also, more news with respect to the fallout from that NATO trip. We're going to bring you some of the remarks and what it means. Also, we'll be talking about billboards. I guess there's a $4,000 birth tourism billboard and a big bust in New Jersey that we're going to get to as well. So it's great to see all of you in the chat, Salty and Southern Gal and Clifford and Karen, Dave, Podhead Kenny, Gabriel, and of course, Valerie, who I met in Milwaukee. It was such a great opportunity to meet you. Thank you for coming up and saying hello. All right, we've got the news. We're getting at it now. Just checking on a couple minor things before we get started. Okay, looks like everything is lined up. So, Brian, when you're ready, we can kick this off. Zelensky just bragged that there is no major oil refinery left in Russia that has not been struck by Ukraine. Then, in the same breath, his camp pushed the Trump administration for unfettered Starlink access over Russia to hit even deeper. And that's the whole story. The war machine wants another emotional blackmail cycle, more range, more capability, more American involvement, no limits. But President Trump just snapped control off of the board back into American hands. He looked Zelensky in the eye and said, "We've developed a very good relationship," and then made clear this is on Trump's terms, not Brussels' terms, not the blob's terms, his. And the next move, it matters enormously. And it matters because wars do not drift towards peace. Men force them there. And for years, the bipartisan war machine in Washington, the NATO priesthood in Brussels, and the Biden-era disaster class trained the public to think America had one job: write bigger checks, ship more hardware, and shut up when the bill came due. President Trump just blew that script apart. Zelensky is not whispering anymore. He's openly celebrating strikes into Saratov, Tatarstan, and as far as 1,400 to 1,500 kilometers from the front. Marco Rubio flat out said that capability has changed this war and made Russian airspace harder to defend. That means the conflict has entered a more dangerous phase and a more negotiable phase at the same time. The question is simple. Who defines the terms now? Well, Donald Trump, who said that Ukraine's very far away, we have an ocean separating us. What am I doing? I'm trying to save lives. Or the permanent war crowd that never sends its own sons and never stops demanding more taxpayer money, more escalation, and more chaos. See, when strikes reach Bashkortostan, 1,500 kilometers away from the front, every American should ask a second question. If the digital system locks up tomorrow, what part of your wealth is actually yours? Well, Noble Gold Investments gives you something real. Physical gold and silver, a coin you can hold, a bar you can stack, something real that doesn't live on a server, can't be frozen by a keystroke, and can't be erased by code. AI exploits banking weakness fast, and you can own physical gold in a tax-advantaged retirement account or get metal shipped right to your door. Go to nextnewsgold.com and see how to protect your future in America. Just mention my name and get a free 10-ounce U.S. independent silver bar when you open a new qualified account. Trump is setting terms abroad. You better set your terms at home. Now here's a detail the media will bury under a mountain of regime spin. Trump didn't talk like a crusader drunk on escalation. He talked like a commander protecting American distance and American leverage. Ukraine's very far away. We have an ocean separating us. That line drives the blob insane because it slams the door on blank checks. But at the very same moment, Trump floated a Patriot production license that tells Moscow, Kyiv, and every parasite in Brussels that he controls the pressure valve. We're going to get into the tweets because that contradiction is exactly where the fight lives. OSINT Defender posting, Zelensky is making a fresh push with senior officials in the Trump administration to obtain unfettered access to the satellite internet service Starlink, which would allow Ukraine drone forces to expand its strikes on energy and military infrastructure deep in the country, potentially including ballistic missile launchers aimed at cities in Ukraine. Officials familiar with the matter told the Wall Street Journal. So the first report says Zelensky is pressing Team Trump for wider Starlink access to hit deeper. Now Zelensky says the quiet part out loud. He claims Ukraine has wiped out Russia's so-called strategic rear. This is his actual post. We've completely eliminated the very idea of Russia having a strategic rear. For a long time, Russia believed it had territorial advantage no one else possessed, a deep rear where it could safely keep military production, military equipment, and everything its war depends on, believing no one could reach them. We have reached them. Just yesterday, Ukraine drones broke through Russia's defenses and struck a Russian oil refinery in Siberia. This is not an exception. It is the new reality. There is no major oil refinery left in Russia that has not been struck by Ukraine. And this is from a speech at the NATO Defense Industry Forum. Let's just check in with that for a moment.
We have completely eliminated the very idea of Russia having a strategic rear. And you know this country. And for a long time, Russia believed it had a territorial advantage. No one else possessed a deep rear where it could safely keep military production, military equipment, and everything its war depends on, believing no one could reach them. And we have reached them. Just yesterday, Ukrainian drones broke through Russia's defenses and struck a Russian oil refinery in Siberia. And this is not an exception. It's the new reality. And there is no major oil refinery left in Russia that has not been struck by Ukraine.
So he's not hinting anymore. He's bragging that Russian refineries are now fair game. Next, he gets more specific, naming regions hundreds and even more than 1,000 kilometers from the front that Ukraine says it reached. He says Ukraine is giving a fully justified response to Russia striking our country and prolonging the war. Today, our long-range sanctions reached the Saratov region. They also reached the Voronezh region, about 300 kilometers from the border. He said, I think the warriors of the unmanned system forces and the special operations forces, the security service of Ukraine, the Saratov oil refinery was hit. Warriors of the special operation forces struck an oil refinery in Tatarstan. So this is some of that footage that you just saw in the previous clip. So after boasting about the strikes, the blowback hits home. Footage out of Kyiv as Russian drones reportedly punch through air defenses and strike across the city. Wow, more chaos in Kyiv as Russian drones break through air defenses and strike targets. Not sure who recorded that, but maybe they could pan down and we could see exactly what's going on. But while Kyiv takes hits, critics say Zelensky is still playing to the NATO crowd. Erdogan steps in with a different message, backing Ukraine, but also pushing Russia towards peace through direct channels.
Değerli mevkidaşlarım, Ukrayna Savaşı'nda Sayın Trump'ın barış vizyonunu paylaşıyor. Ukrayna'nın öncelikli ihtiyaç listeleri girişimine desteğimi bildiriyorum. Ukrayna'ya kendi milli envanterimizden sağladığımız askeri desteğe
We will continue our contribution under the PURL framework. And what does he say next? While supporting Ukraine, we're also using our communication channels to encourage Russia towards peace. So Erdogan is talking support on one hand and peace talks on the other. Now comes the meeting that matters. Trump and Zelensky sit down, and Trump says the relationship has gotten very good.
We've actually developed a good relationship. It's hard to believe, right? From the Oval Office to now, I think we've developed a very good relationship. And
this is not the end.
no, this is not. This is going to be the beginning, maybe.
Yeah.
Just the beginning. And you know, the country has a lot of future. It has such great land, such great assets, such great people. And you have a lot of people.
And of course, who can ever forget the moment when Trump kicked Zelensky out of the West Wing? So that was the diplomatic reset, friendly words and talk of a beginning, but Trump goes further, floating a license for Ukraine to manufacture Patriot missiles.
A little birdie told me this about the fact that we'll give them the right to make Patriots. We'll show them how to do it. It's very complex, actually, but it's you'll figure out the complexity quickly. And we're talking about that, and the company that makes them, which is building now 4 plants, you know, all of our companies will be able to do this in 2 to 3 months. If you order a Patriot, now you have to wait a long time for them. Same thing with Tomahawks. We have a lot of certain equipment, but with they call it the elite equipment, and you don't need elite equipment necessarily for a war. But so one of the things we're going to be talking about is we're going to give a license to you to make Patriots. That's pretty cool, right? This way you can't complain that we're not giving them enough. I say, make them yourself. We haven't informed the company of that yet, but that'll work out all right. You know, I'm sure they'll be thrilled.
So Trump didn't talk cooperation. He laid out the idea on the Patriots. Next, the headline version, Trump announces Ukraine would get the license to build them. And the message is clear. They could be made by Ukraine. Next question is one every reporter asks, what exactly is Trump's security guarantee?
What's your security guarantee for Ukraine?
The guarantee?
Yeah, security guarantee for
The
Ukraine.
security guarantee you're
Yeah.
talking about? I mean, not that we want to do it. We'll do it to save lives. Look, Ukraine's very far away. We have an ocean separating us. What I'm doing is I'm trying to save lives. A lot of lives are being lost. I also think that it's a country with great potential. I think if this kind of brain power can go toward rebuilding the country instead of fighting a war, I think that country is going to do fantastically well.
So Trump says his focus is saving lives, not writing a blank check. Next, Rubio explains the battlefield reality underneath all of it. Ukraine's growing ability to strike deep inside Russia is changing the war.
Can you answer that? Because you're right in the middle of it.
Yeah, no, I think what you're discussing is the ability of Ukraine to reach deep inside of Russia and conduct strikes. I think that's one of the dynamics that's changed in this war over the last few months, and that is that Russians are finding it more difficult to defend their own airspace. And what we hope that means is that it's going to create the space now to negotiate the end of this war.
It's an escalation, but it's also an escalation that can help lead to an end. And,
Mr. President,
Escalation that could lead to an end. We'll have to wait and see how that shakes out. So the moral verdict lands right here. Zelensky bragged that there is no major oil refinery left in Russia that has not been struck. Well, his team lobbied for Starlink access over Russia, and the foreign policy priesthood expected Donald Trump to play cashier. He didn't. He took the cards, he kept the ocean in view, kept American troops out of the meat grinder, and kept leverage alive. And that's why the media can't process this moment. They only understand 2 settings, surrender or escalation. Trump found the third road they swore didn't exist: pressure Russia, restrain America, enforce negotiation, and save lives. And every warmonger who fed the war for years just got cornered by a president who actually knows how to use power. So here's the line every patriot should hold tonight. If Zelensky wants, and he wants the help, he gets help on President Trump's terms. If NATO apparatchiks want leverage, they answer to American taxpayers first. If the permanent war class wants more blank checks, one more sob story, or one more panic campaign, they can finally hear the word no. Trump already framed it in plain English. Ukraine is far away. America has an ocean separating us, and the mission is to save lives. Well, good. Keep it there. Use battlefield leverage to hammer both sides towards an end, but do not surrender American control for 1 inch of elite moral theater. Now, put in the comments whether you trust Trump to keep the pressure on without letting the blob hijack another generation. And share this with somebody who still thinks the only options are endless war or total retreat. President Trump just proved otherwise, and that's exactly why the war machine is rattled. And I understand you're rattled as well, and that's why we set up this telephone number to make sure that you get the notifications. It's frustrating. I see your comments. Text raw feed to 844-840-4963 and join the thousands and thousands of patriots who are bypassing the algorithm and getting the news direct from the Next News Network. And celebrate the wins with the Next News Network by going to the merch shelf below this video or shop.nextnewsnetwork.com. Okay, that is the latest on the Ukraine talks that occurred at the NATO summit. Now we're going to be moving into the Kirk assassination. New details from the courtroom today as we continue our coverage of that heartbreaking moment that we all remember. Tyler Robinson texts his lover after Charlie Kirk was murdered. And when Lance Twiggs asked the question every American wanted answered, Robinson fired back 3 words that blew the case wide open. I'm sorry. And then the courtroom got the rest. A man who drove 4.5 hours, who is not even a UVU student, who scoped the event, came back in long pants with a limp that magically developed, climbed to a rooftop, fired, and then lost the limp within seconds. Donald Trump Jr. sat in that room and watched it unfold, and what he said next just shattered the entire lie machine. And the case matters because the target was not anonymous. The target was Charlie Kirk, a conservative movement builder who spent 13 years dragging Turning Point from a garage in Illinois to a national force for young patriots. And after he was assassinated, a parasite ecosystem moved in. Candace Owens and a swarm of click addicts smeared Erica Kirk, tormented a widow, and pumped internet sludge into a grieving family's worst nightmare. And while that filth spread, the courtroom stacked nearly 60 exhibits, minute-by-minute surveillance text messages, and witness testimony that ripped the defense to pieces. And Donald Trump Jr. did not rely on rumor. He walked into that courtroom, saw the evidence with his own eyes, and said it was very clear that Tyler Robinson will be found guilty. He also exposed the defense for what it is: stall tactics and panic. And looming over all of it sits an outrageous security failure. 6 officers on duty. No real game plan. A major turning point event left exposed. Patriots deserve justice, and they deserve the full truth in public. And when a courtroom lays out nearly 60 exhibits in a vanished limp, you start thinking about evidence in your own life too. When did you last feel genuinely recovered, not just rested? Jonathan Otto and his company Red Life built a medbed hack around a cellular energy focus. If your mitochondria miss the right frequencies of light and the right electromagnetic environment, you get less energy production, slower recovery, and slower repair. And that's where Red Light Therapy and PEMF come in. 2 clinically studied wellness technologies, specific wavelengths that help boost cellular energy production and natural repair processes, while gentle electromagnetic pulses support circulation, recovery, and function. This MedBed hack uses 10 clinically studied wavelengths, advanced dual chip technology, and up to twice the power in just 30 minutes a day right from home. Go to medbedhack.com. It's linked below. Use code NNN30 for 30% off bundles or NNN25 for 25% off individual devices, because facts still win. Now here's the detail that the smear merchants can't outrun. Erica Kirk's own legal team now wants all of it dumped into public view. Excuse me. Not hidden, not quietly sealed, all of it. because they know secrecy fed the freak show. They know redactions give grifters oxygen. They know the public already heard Robinson's "I'm sorry" and watched the magic limp routine collapse on camera. So I'm going to throw up the tweets right here for you to see. Keep one question locked in your head. Who still wants this case muddied after that sequence? Major text messages have just been broadcast in the court hearing of Tyler Robinson admitting to killing Charlie Kirk to his transgender lover, Lance Twiggs.
It begins Wednesday, 11 p.m. Will you start reading underneath that?
Yes. So this would have been from Tyler. It says, drop what you're doing, look under your keyboard.
And I apologize. Let me stop you there. How do you know that that message would have been from Tyler Robinson?
That's just, so any of the messages in gray would be from Tyler, and messages in blue would be from Lance. It's just the way the iPhone distinguishes the messages. And also Lance in his interview also acknowledges that, who was saying what.
And up at the top, who do we see that this thread is between?
Tyler.
All right, sorry to interrupt you. So read that again, starting from look under the keyboard.
So after that, then Lance responds, he says, what? And then he says, you're joking, right? And then Tyler says, fuck, I tried to delete that.
If we could scroll down to page 2. And if you can continue reading along.
Okay. And Tyler says, I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you. And then Lance replies, you weren't the one who did it, right? And Tyler says, I am, I'm sorry. Lance says, I thought they caught the person. And then Tyler says, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude and interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from the drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering.
If we could scroll down to page 3.
So the texts are about as direct as it gets. I'm sorry. Next, Robinson's former roommate and lover Lance Twigg tells the court how Robinson acted the morning after, pacing, distracted, and admitting that it was all true.
When did you first see him on September 11th? So this is the day after the shooting?
Yeah, I saw him when I woke up. Like I said, he was up and around doing a lot of stuff around the house. And then I think I saw him after that message where I said I'll come home and say I'm doing laundry, because I didn't want him going to my parents' house right then when he said there was probably cops outside. So I went back home, and it was just him there, and I said bye to him, and then he drove off. So I just went back to my parents' house.
Is that it? Is there more?
So he acted erratically. Was he pacing? Was he just sitting down, relaxing?
No, he was walking around a lot.
Right, and that's within the home?
Mm-hmm.
And did he talk about what he had done?
Didn't go into detail. I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was. I started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it, and then kept going around and just doing stuff, I think, to keep himself busy or distracted or something.
Okay. Did he talk about what he was going to do next?
And then eventually said that he would talk to his parents or turn himself over.
And I'm seeing some of your comments here. I'm a tool. Candace Owens should be hired as legal team. She's on the money. No, I completely disagree with you guys on that point. 100%. This whole thing is going to prove that Candace Owens was wrong from the very beginning. She'll be the one doing the apologizing when it's her turn to go to court. When she gets sued into oblivion by Erica Kirk and Kirk's family. So, you heard Twiggs describe the behavior after the shooting. Now the courtroom focus shifts to the human cost as Erica Kirk breaks down while the messages are read and Charlie's family tries to hold her up. She was heard crying in the courtroom.
His chair, scratching his nose, looked uncomfortable with the text messages on the screen. Erica Kirk was looking down, leaning forward, not looking at the screen, showing the text. When they got to the part about Lance asking Tyler in the text, does he need the rifle for hunting, that kind of stuff, that's when Erica audibly began crying. Tyler's mom was also crying at that point, not audibly. She was wiping her eyes. Charlie's mom had her hand on Erica's upper arm, shoulder. They're both tearful. Just getting some of the action inside the courtroom there as all of this unfolds. And you can imagine for Erica Kirk to hear all of this just has to be devastating, again, because it's just like right back in her face again.
That's right. I mean, she's reliving the most traumatic experience that someone could potentially go through. And against the backdrop of people who are attempting to profit off of this situation by spreading lies and outrageous theories, in the aggregate, it doesn't really get much worse than what she's going through.
So while the media circus keeps spinning lies, the family's reliving this nightmare. Next, Erica Kirk's legal team makes a clear demand: open the evidence and stop giving conspiracy peddlers room to operate.
Kirk's legal team announcing a new court motion demanding all evidence be made public, arguing, quote, at certain points throughout the preliminary hearing, the Kirk family sat in the room while evidence was admitted but not presented for their viewing. They were present in body, yet denied the very thing their presence was meant to secure: their ability to meaningfully observe the preliminary hearing in the absence of transparency. Speculation and conspiracy theories related to the tragic assassination of Mr. Kirk will continue to proliferate in the public domain, breeding doubt and distrust in the judicial system. Now, this comes just hours before the court is expected to hear redacted audio testimony from the ex-roommate of the suspect accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. Fox News contributor and criminal defense.
So the push for transparency goes straight at the rumor mill. And now one of the biggest claims take a hit. Candace says it wasn't Tyler in the videos, but Tyler Robinson's own mother identified him. Candace claims it's not Tyler Robinson in the videos, but Tyler Robinson's own mother identified him from those videos. Think very carefully, America. Yeah. So much for the cover story. Next, Donald Trump Jr. lays out why he says the case is over, from the limp to the rooftop to the long object that looked like a gun.
I'm listening to all the legal analysts who are in court as well, and they're suggesting the evidence is overwhelming. And how did the
it really is.
the prosecution's case sound to you in court?
Very strong, and the defense sounded very weak. The defense's only real tactic was seemingly to either stall or try to not admit essentially any evidence whatsoever, because I guess it would be too damning to their client. It was truly crazy. But you see the video. You know, this is someone who lived 4.5 hours south, who importantly, and you know, most people didn't know this, was not a student at Utah Valley University. He came up 4.5 hours away, very distinctly. I guess it was a Dodge Challenger in a car with very distinct rims. So they're able to identify the vehicle. They see him coming in early. He interacts with some Turning Point people, apparently asking them, you know, what was happening here, who were the speakers, what was the timing, whatever that may have been, it seems. He then leaves, but he's wearing shorts and a T-shirt. He comes back wearing long pants with a limp that magically somehow developed, is seen on video going up to this rooftop, which was the perfect vantage point to make, this shot, then jumps off the building carrying a long object that looked like the shape of a gun, according to one of the witnesses, wrapped up in something. And there was a screwdriver left, which to me, leads me to believe that he walked up there with a limp, had to disassemble the gun, put both the stock and the barreled action, down his pants, walked up there, put the gun together. That takes 30 seconds, made his shot. They saw evidence of the indents of where, there would have been a sniper's hide, the indents from his knees and elbows where he would have lain prone to make this shot. The shot happens, and within seconds, he's seen the limp has disappeared, and he's seen, jumping off the building and running into the nearby woods. Then there's ring cam footage of him pulling up again in this very distinct car.
So Don Jr. says the evidence is overwhelming and the defense looks weak. Next, he goes further after sitting in the courtroom saying plainly Tyler Robinson will be found guilty.
I've got one more minute here. Some of the video that was played in court is something that we have never seen before, and the public seeing it for the first time. It's my understanding on Monday there was some video that was played, and Erica chose to get up and leave the courtroom at that time for obvious reasons when that fatal shot was fired. How's she doing? What does she want America to know?
Listen, she is doing as well as she can be under the circumstances. She was obviously very grateful that Bettina and I were there to just support her. Obviously I've been friends with her as long as she's known Charlie. And she's just a great person, a mother trying to get by, trying to, fulfill her husband's legacy. There's obviously a lot of sadness in all of this. I think there's a lot of frustration, frankly, that this could have ever happened. I mean, one of the things I did hear that was sort of shocking was that there were only 6 officers on duty on this campus event. No briefing beforehand, no real set game plan, and 6 officers for a Turning Point event. And anyone who's watched the news in the last, decade or so would realize there'd be thousands of people on this campus. So I imagine there's some frustration with that, but I think she just wants justice. She's doing an incredible job just holding it together, given the circumstances and the, sheer brutality of how this all happened, and frankly, some of the sheer noise that has come after her and attacked her and the organization and all of that. Which is, again, I've stayed quiet. I've supported her. We've talked, regularly ever since. I haven't been that vocal because I haven't known what's real and what's not. But having literally been there in the room, seen the evidence with my own eyes, it's very clear to me that Tyler Robinson will be found guilty.
Back in court today, a couple hours from now.
So after hearing Don Jr. describe what he saw, the record gets more concrete. Next, we see newly released detention footage from September 12th with investigators identifying Tyler Robinson on screen.
With that, to the media, can you view that screen okay? All right. All right, State's Exhibit 15 may be played.
And Agent Davis, who are we seeing here?
That's Tyler Robinson.
And although we are watching it on video, what is he wearing at this time?
He's wearing a dark colored baseball cap with I believe it's maybe the Hurley symbol on it, like a white symbol on front. It's a burgundy short sleeve shirt with no graphics. It's blue jeans and gray and white tennis shoes. I believe they're Converse style tennis shoes.
Thank you. Was Mr. Robinson, you stated that he was arrested in the early hours of September 12th, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Did he remain in Washington County Sheriff's Office, or was he taken somewhere else?
No, he was transported from there to the Utah County Jail.
So the video trail's growing. Cuts against the distractions and the denials. Now we shift to one of the ugliest sides of the story. The sick attacks on Erica Kirk by Candace Owens and the grifters cashing in. Candace Owens' tormenting of Erica Kirk for engagement represents the very worst of alternative media and how low people can sink.
I love you so much.
I love you. Marriage is the most awesome thing ever, everybody. It's amazing.
I'm grateful for you.
I love you.
I love you too, babe.
Good evening. My name is Erica Kirk. Charlie Kirk is my husband.
We recognize there is something deeply wrong and evil about Erica Kirk. Something is not right with Erica Kirk. It is impossible for me to think that Erica Kirk is not complicit somehow. Erica has psychopathic tendencies. Straight to jail, straight to jail. For questioning at least Erica. What do you think about Erica Kirk?
I don't want to say anything that's controversial. She did it, but I don't want
And we're going to make sure that we honor my husband so well, that this whole world knows what his vision was and will be. And it's just, I feel so blessed and honored.
And if his wife was indeed just a widow, she would have behaved like a normal human being, like a real widow who couldn't pull herself out of bed.
I just want to go find
Her job is to cry. And then for us to be scolded that it's our fault that she's crying because how dare we try to figure out who killed her husband. And that's
I'm not going to give her any more airtime. But after that disgraceful pile-on against Erica, it's worth remembering who Charlie Kirk actually was. A tribute from his team looks back at the mission he built from nothing and the courage that drove it.
13 years ago, I was in a You're going to start a youth organization that's going to catch the whole world on fire.
Only in America can a young man with a dream change the world.
So starting in that garage in Lamont, Illinois, that Bill had for us at 217.5 Illinois Street, and growing from that forward was a battle. So the first year, you raised $20,000, which at the time was an unbelievable amount of money, right? We didn't have an office, we didn't have a staff. It was just me just traveling the country doing this, pure grit, pure energy. And I was driven by core ideas and core principles that we should be thankful, not angry to live in this country. Would you agree? We should be thankful. We should be kissing the ground and saying we are the luckiest human beings ever to exist, that we are able to live in this country at this time.
You know, it's wild because just before COVID, I sat down with Bill Montgomery. We had coffee, and he saw something in me that he wanted to accelerate. And we were getting ready to join forces and work with Bill Montgomery and to take a greater, deeper role with Charlie in Turning Point. And then sadly, COVID took this nation, the world, by storm. And then Bill Montgomery died from COVID. And I'll never forget that, never forget hearing that. And knowing and hearing that story directly from Bill Montgomery when he sat across from me about how he saw Charlie Kirk give that speech and inspired him to take action to build Turning Point, and to know that I was sitting across from the man who helped handpick Charlie Kirk, and now he was getting ready to handpick me. And then Bill Montgomery passes away. And here we are. So the ugliest moment in the whole saga did not come from some clever defense maneuver. It came when Erica Kirk sat in court reliving the murder of her husband while Lance Twiggs' message hit the screen, and Charlie Kirk's mother reached over and put a hand on her arm as she cried. That image destroys every sick lie that the click vultures pushed for profit. Candace Owens and every hanger-on who painted Erica Kirk as the villain got caught tormenting a widow, while Tyler Robinson's own words and movements boxed him in. I am sorry, his words. Long pants, a magically developed limp, rooftop vantage point, shot fired, limp gone. That's not confusion. That's Tyler Robinson cornered by his own trail. Now the court needs to finish this cleanly and fast. No more stall games. No more hiding behind objections to Lance Twiggs' evidence. No more redaction culture that protects gossip and punishes truth. Put the exhibits out. Release the material. Let the country see the surveillance chain, the texts, the detainment footage, the DNA links, and every piece that shattered this defense. And while we're at it, somebody in Washington County needs to answer for the security disaster that left a major conservative event covered by just 6 officers and no serious plan. Charlie Kirk built a movement from a garage because he believed young Americans would fight when the moment came. Well, that moment is here. Stand with Erica Kirk, stand with Turning Point, and stand with the truth getting dragged into daylight. If this fired you up past this segment to one person still trapped in the conspiracy swamp, let them watch the limp vanish and try to explain that away. And we're not going to let YouTube explain us away. No, that's why we set up this telephone number here, 844-840-4963. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already texted that number, and they're getting the inside track on the news that YouTube tries to bury every single day. And make sure you're celebrating the Next News Network with us by going to the merch shelf below this video. Yes, I stand by my words. Erica Kirk is a grieving widow. Candace Owens is clickbait trash. And the court will prove that. Okay, moving right along, we're going to be moving into the, what happened? They did a plane swap, Air Force One plane swap. Caught everybody off guard. President Trump making some remarks about that. Strikes in Iran have now amplified. Ceasefire completely off the table. We're going to bring you the latest on that story as well. Okay, so I'm ready when you are, Brian, and we'll get started. And then we're going to, later on, we'll be talking about Judge Dugan, more from the NATO summit, and that bizarre billboard is next. Okay. Donald Trump shut the window blinds on Air Force One because Iran had him at the top of its target list. And then he looked straight at reporters and cracked, "If I go, you go," right? So perhaps someday you want to change professions. That one line told you everything. Trump knows the Islamic Republic plays dirty. He knows these fanatics target civilians, shipping, bases, anybody. And unlike the Obama-Biden school of apology and pallets of cash, Trump didn't beg the mullahs to calm down. He hit them hard. And last night, he warned them that he can do it again. The ceasefire game is over. And this matters because the Strait of Hormuz is not a seminar topic for washed-up think tank hacks. It's a choke point for the world economy. Iran's regime threatened to close it, harassed ships, launched missiles, and tried to blackmail the planet with oil panic and terror. And that's the stake, not abstract diplomacy, commerce, energy, American lives. And Trump said it flat out, as far as I'm concerned, it's over. Well, good, because the old Washington scam was always the same. Barack Obama and Joe Biden treated the mullahs like misunderstood negotiating partners while the regime lied, cheated, armed proxies, and raced towards a nuclear weapon. Well, Trump called them what they are: scum, evil people, mentally disturbed people. And that blunt moral clarity matters. It tells Tehran the age of fake red lines is dead, and it tells every terrorist watching that if you choke shipping in Hormuz or target Americans, the Trump administration will not hold another briefing, write another waiver, or wire another bribe. It will break your capacity to do it again. The same ruling class that sold fake deals with Tehran, they built a Medicare confusion industrial complex right here at home. Chapter cuts right through it. Medicare is simple by design. With Chapter, one call, one advisor, under 20 minutes, no endless forms, no bureaucratic runaround. They look at your doctors, look at your prescriptions, your whole situation, then tell you the truth. No propaganda, just facts. That's how you stop getting trapped in plans designed to benefit big insurance, not you. You see, they work for you, not big insurance. And if you're already on the right plan, they'll say so. If not, they'll help you switch. It's free. And last year, people who found new plans with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. The number on your screen, give them a call, 910-728-4109. Again, that's 910-728-4109. Write it down. In a system that's built to keep you confused, that matters. When bureaucrats profit from confusion, clarity becomes self-defense. Now, one detail the panic merchants can't spin away: Trump said the U.S. still has not hit Iran at the highest level. Not the bridges, not the electric plants, not the desalination plants. And on Karg Island, he gave a surgical order: don't touch the oil, because America can destroy capacity without mindless chaos. That's not weakness. That is dominance with discipline. And I'm going to roll all the tweets because the online meltdown tells you exactly who still wants America begging the mullahs for another fake deal. President Trump on Air Force One.
Would you mind had us close our window blinds? That was not usual.
Well, because you're probably on a dangerous flight because of the sleaze bags that we have to deal with.
So you think that Iran was possibly thinking of trying
Well, if they asked you to close your windows, probably they'd feel that way. They didn't ask me to close mine, but if they did, I would have done it. No, these are sick people. So I could see something like that. I didn't know they did that, but I could see something like that.
Were you aware of any credible threat by Iran against Air Force
Well, I have
One?
a threat all the time. I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go, right?
But was there a specific
So perhaps
threat today?
someday you want to change professions.
And that was one of my main concerns as far as President Trump going to Turkey for the NATO summit, because he is just one ballistic missile strike away from Iran. And clearly the powers that be in the Pentagon recognize that threat. And Trump made it plain the threat was serious enough to shut the blinds. And now Iran-linked messaging is turning that threat into economic blackmail with the claim the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Daily Iran News: the Strait of Hormuz is closed until the U.S. abides by the MOU. Have a nice time. Collapsing the world economy. Epstein coalition. Yeah. So after the saber rattling, even NATO is weighing in. Now, Marco Rubio says the U.S. strike on Iran was not just justified, it was necessary.
I think it was absolutely necessary because when you have a ceasefire and Iran is basically violating the ceasefire, we see what happened yesterday with ships being attacked, I think it is totally crucial that the US forcefully reacts. I also expect allies today to discuss Iran. I expect allies today to reconfirm that Iran should never, ever get its hand on a nuclear capability. And secondly, that the principle of the freedom of navigation, so the Strait of Hormuz completely opening up again, is a sine qua non, is crucial for all 32 allies.
So he says the response was necessary. Next, Trump spells out exactly why he says the regime had to hit hard.
We attacked very powerfully last night. The very dangerous people from Iran, they're sick. There's something wrong with them. We said, go and do your funeral stuff. And instead of that, they start shooting rockets at ships yesterday. And so we hit them very hard last night, very hard. I would say 20-1, 20 times tougher. And I told them every time you hit, we hit. And of course they're dirty players, so they go after everyone, probably including me. I've been number one on their list for years. And they're a bunch of scum, you want to know the truth. They're scum. And so we don't like them. I don't like them. And they're evil people, and it's the denuclearization of Iran. And we're going to denuke it. We're not going to let them because they're crazy, and they can't have a nuclear weapon. And they go around killing people. They've killed thousands and thousands of our soldiers. They've killed hundreds of thousands of innocent people. They had the roadside bomb, Soleimani. I took care of him, first term. And that was a big thing because I think they probably would be a lot stronger had he been around because he was a bad guy, but he was an evil genius, but a bad guy. And he was the father of the roadside bomb. The roadside bomb is a bomb that goes on when you're driving your little vehicle around, and it goes on and you have no legs, no arms, and no face. And they've killed thousands and thousands of people. Even the SS Cole was theirs, if you remember that disaster. So I don't like them at all. And frankly, I think we waste a lot of time with them. I think we should just do our business. Can you imagine? They start shooting bombs, actually missiles at ships yesterday. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, a couple of others. And they don't. I don't think they know what the hell they're doing. But they're bad people, very bad people. I think they're incompetent, by the way. Because if they were competent, they would have made a deal a long time ago. Like, how about 47 years ago? So they've been in trouble for 47 years, and we took out their first set of leaders. We took out their second set of leaders. They want to take out the U.S. leader, me. I'm on every list. I saw things this morning. I'm on every single one of their lists. And so far, I guess I've been a little bit lucky, but that maybe doesn't last very long because that's the way it goes. But we have great people. But these are evil, sick people, and we have to rid their cancer. Their cancer. And you know what you do? You got to cut out cancer early. Man, that's the way I feel.
Cut out cancer early. Trump says Iran fired first and got hammered. Now he goes a step further, saying as far as he's concerned, so-called ceasefire may already be finished.
It's a very interesting question. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'll speak to our negotiators. They want to negotiate. They're good people. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. But they have to come back to me. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time dealing with them. They're liars. We make a deal. And if I make a deal with him, we have a deal. And he goes out, he talks. We make a deal. Everyone's agreed. No nuclear weapon. We make a deal. They go outside, talk to the press. They say, we never even talked about it. There's something wrong with them. They're cuckoo. As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
The talks won't resume after we get through the funeral proceedings.
What?
Does this mean that talks with Iran will not resume?
I don't care. They can talk, but I think they're wasting their time. They're a bunch of lying guys. I do my whole life. That's all I do is deals. My whole life that's how I became president. I guess that's a deal too, right? But I made a lot of money. I had a lot of great success, tremendous success. Everything I did, I was successful. And I deal with these guys, and I say, this is from a different school. They're liars. They're cheats. They're sick people. They've hurt their people. They killed 54,000 people as of now that were protesting. You know, when people say, how come they haven't taken over? They can't take over because they're dead. They killed them. Nobody's going to take over. They have no guns, and the other side has machine guns.
So after calling the regime liars and saying he's done wasting time, Trump turns the warning into action. He says more strikes could come.
But they launched a couple of drones and one rocket, one missile, and at ships because they were in the strait, which they have every right to be. And so we hit them very hard last night. Very, very hard. Probably hit them hard again tonight. I'll give them a little warning. We're going to hit them hard tonight.
So that wasn't vague diplomacy from the swamp crowd right after Trump warned Iran more hits were coming on the table. Reports out the IRGC officer was killed in the strikes. IRGC confirmed the death of Officer Mohammad Reza Kazani, who was killed in the strikes on the 3rd Mashir naval base in Khuzestan province, Iran. Next, Trump's team lays out the target list in blunt terms. Anything used to harass shipping in the Strait is fair game.
Last night, as you said, a lot of small craft that they were trying to harass shipping with, so that was a big part of what we targeted. Underground facilities where they were storing drones or missiles, coastal defense sites, radar sites, surveillance sites, anything used to harass shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. So anything they thought they had rebuilt or capability they were using was a target last night. And tonight, if we need to, on your order, Mr. President, we will hit even more and even deeper, because that's the consequence.
And we may put down the blockade. We may put it back, the blockade. And it'll only be a blockade for Iran. Anybody else can have whatever they want. Now, of course, they'll drop some mines if they can, if they can do it. But it's hard because we're taking out those little boats now with the same weapon we used to take out the drug lords and the boats coming in by sea.
So Trump just made it plain the threat was serious enough. Oh, my bad. Here we go. Now Trump raises the pressure, saying the U.S. has held back from top-tier targets, but could change that fast.
Well, first of all, we took out additional, they were trying to rebuild their radar, and they had about 60% built. Now they have to start all over again. Look, we're not attacking at the highest level. The highest level are the bridges, which we can knock down. I would say in one day we knocked down every single bridge in Iran. There's not a thing they can do about it. Their electric manufacturing facilities, right? Their electric plants where they make their electricity there. We will, if we have to, we'll take them out. I don't want to do that, but if we have to, we'll take them out. They have desalinization plants. We'll take them out if we have to. I hate to do that. That's probably the one I would like not to do least. We attacked Karg Island last night. We knocked out a piece. I said, don't touch the oil, because maybe we'll take over Karg Island. We may take over Karg Island. There's not a thing they can do about it. But I said, don't hit the pipes. Just hit everything else. And they hit it. They may hit it again tonight. So, as per your question, normally I'm not that way, but they really deserve it, because they're saying they want to make a deal, but they don't. They asked for a timeout. They wanted to go to the funeral of Khomeini, and I said, give it to them. And they start shooting missiles. I mean, it was the craziest thing. Now, we did kill him, so I guess you have to look at it that way, but the funeral took place, and they wanted to have a period of time, and they also asked that we not kill them. And we said, we're not going to kill you. They were worried we'd kill them during the funeral. I mean, if you can believe it, what a crazy... Did you ever think I'd be doing this for a living, Marco? Did anybody ever think I'm doing... Maybe Pete, but this wasn't supposed to be for me. Pete loved this stuff from day one. But they said to us, please don't kill us during the funeral. I said, I won't. And we didn't do anything. In fact, we made it safe for them, actually. And what happens? They try and knock out two ships, a Saudi and I guess Kuwait, right? Kuwaiti? Oh, no, Qatari. In addition, really three.
Three, yes, sir.
So you had three of them. And
so Trump says bridges, power facilities, and Karg Island are options if Iran keeps testing. Next, he sums up his view of the regime: evil, sick, and long overdue for a reckoning.
But we have minesweepers. And one of the things that came up today is that European nations, the NATO group, they're sending minesweepers. We don't need them now. We have pretty much the mines that cleared up, but they'll probably drop some more. They're evil people. They're sick people. They're mentally disturbed people. And it should have been done 47 years ago.
So that's Trump unfiltered. Next, he zeroes in on Iran's nuclear material.
We've already got the nuclear material because it's so far underground, nobody's going to be able to get it except us because we have the equipment that can get it. But I call it the nuclear dust. The nuclear material is so far down underneath the mountain, and now that's been determined, that it would take massive machinery that we have that no other country has.
Mr.
They
President,
can't get
so
it.
you have no plans to go in, boots on the ground?
Why would I go in now? I'd go in when they're completely either eliminated or whatever happened, or an agreement's made.
Trump says U.S. can reach what no one else can on our timetable, but while he talks capability, Iranian state television is pushing its own show of force with missile footage aimed at U.S. Gulf bases. President Trump just needs to get in there and finish the job. And after the bluster from the media machine in Tehran, next clip shows the pro-Khomeini protest crowd and the regime's cheerleaders who want the world to believe represents humanity. Jackson Hinkle. Humanity stands with Khomeini. Unbelievable, this guy. So the peak moment here is not just the strike package. It's Trump saying in public, after Iran violated the ceasefire and attacked shipping, we hit them very hard last night, probably hit them hard again tonight. No costume diplomacy, no regime fairy tales, no John Kerry-style groveling. And then Marco Rubio, NATO's own Secretary General, had to admit the strike was absolutely necessary. So think about that. Even the international crowd that spent years flattering Tehran got cornered by reality. The Islamic Republic fired at the sea lanes, and Trump restored deterrence in hours. Barack Obama sent $1.7 billion in cash to these fanatics, and Donald Trump sends consequences. And that's the whole contrast. Cash versus force, appeasement versus order. Weak men fed this monster, and Trump is starving it. So remember that image. Window blinds shut on Air Force One because Iran's regime is dirty enough to target the commander-in-chief, and Trump still jokes with the press, then turns around and hammers the people threatening the Strait of Hormuz. That's steel. That's composure. That is command. The Islamic Republic wanted leverage. It got blasted radar sites, smashed naval capability, dead IRGC officers, and a president who said the negotiation scam is over unless it happens on America's terms. Zero sympathy for the mullahs, zero more cash, zero more fake deals. Full support for crushing every capability they use to menace American forces in global shipping. And watch the America Last crowd now. The leaks, the sob stories, the surrender propaganda, all right on schedule. We'll let them melt down. And drop your take in the comments if you back Trump's doctrine of force, and share this with the appeaser in your family. And keep this channel close. The fight sits right on the throat of the world economy. And keep this channel on your phone, right? You're not getting the notifications. Well, we set up this number so that you can make sure you get those notifications. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already done so. They text the words raw feed to 844-840-4963, bypassing the algorithm and the active suppression of our truth. And celebrate the Next News Network and support our work by going to the merch shelf below this video. Okay, we're going to keep tracking the latest from Iran, which, You know, I thought we had something with that MOU, but in my gut, I knew it was not going to hold. I knew there was just, you can't trust them. And President Trump just needs to finish the job there and just get it over with. But then, of course, you know what happens next, right? Cuba. Okay, we're moving on to what happened in Milwaukee and the fallout from Judge Dugan. A judge helped an illegal alien slip out a back door while ICE agents stood there waiting. That happened inside a Milwaukee courthouse, and then Hannah Dugan got convicted of felony obstruction and still walked with no prison, no probation, and a laughable $5,000 fine. And the man who let her skate was Lynn Edelman, a Clinton-appointed judge protecting another judge in the club. President Trump nailed it seconds after stepping off Marine One. Terrible. Courts letting world-class criminals stay. We're not allowing it. If a courthouse turns into a getaway route for Eduardo Flores Ruiz, what exactly is left for equal justice? And the story matters because it tells every American exactly how the regime works when one of its own gets caught. Judge Hannah Dugan did not miss a form. She did not fumble paperwork. She helped Eduardo Flores Ruiz dodge federal agents by sneaking him out a back door while ICE waited in the building. She committed that sabotage in a courthouse, the one place that should scream order, authority, and the rule of law. Then Lynn Edelman looked at a felony obstruction conviction and handed down the kind of sentence ordinary citizens never get. 0 prison, 0 probation, $5,000, and that's pocket change in exchange for blowing a hole in federal enforcement. The former Biden administration imported the chaos. Now the activist judge cartel tries to freeze it in place by shielding the people who obstruct removals. Trump was right from the start about illegal immigration, and this case proves the rot spread far beyond the border. It reached the bench. Once judges protect immigration sabotage, every neighborhood pays the price. Now in Milwaukee, Hannah Dugan turned a courthouse into a backdoor escape hatch. And that kind of lawless arrogance should make you ask a harder question. If elites can game the system, what happens when the digital system holding your money gets gamed too? Noble Gold Investments gives you something real, not digits that can be frozen by a keystroke, not wealth that doesn't live on a server and can't be erased by code. I'm talking physical gold and silver, a coin you can hold, a bar you can stack, even a tax-advantaged retirement account shipped right to your door. Go to nextnewsgold.com and learn how to protect your savings. Just mention my name, and you can get a free 10-ounce U.S. independent silver bar when you open a new qualified account. America needs citizens harder to control. And here's the detail that should make your blood boil all over again. Lynn Edelman did not just spare Hannah Dugan prison. He justified it by leaning on her decades of public service, as if years on the bench cancel felony obstruction. Public service? She used public office to help Eduardo Flores Ruiz slip past ICE. That's not service. That is ideological sabotage from inside the courthouse itself. Wait till you see the posts, because patriots across the country see exactly what this rigged sentence tells every activist judge who's watching. And some time ago, I did get an opportunity to ask President Trump directly as he departed Marine One about Judge Dugan and what is next for the courts.
Mr. President, what's next for cleaning up the courts after Judge Dugan's arrest? What's next for cleaning up the courts after Judge Dugan's arrest?
Oh, it's terrible. What happened there is terrible. That could happen with a judge is so ashamed. And we have to bring our country back from all these criminals that Biden allowed to come in. These are world-class criminals and people that are insane, people from jails, murderers, drug addicts, drug dealers. And, you know, we have a country. We have to be proud of our country. We can't let these people stay. The courts are allowing them to stay. And we're just not going to allow it. So hopefully the Supreme Court will come to the rescue of our country. Thank you, Mr. President.
And there's the moment I had the opportunity to ask President Trump regarding Judge Dugan. when she was initially arrested, and he laid it out, the courts are blocking the cleanup. Now comes the part that has people furious. Dugan gets no prison time at all, just a $5,000 fine.
Of domestic battery. According to court documents, Judge Dugan learned of the agent's presence April 18th and confronted them in the hallway outside her courtroom. She's seen in the video directing them to the chief judge's office next door. Shortly after, most of the agents walked away. Flores Ruiz is seen leaving Dugan's courtroom.
She needs maximum punishment. That sentence is exactly why Americans think the system protects its own. Now you see the blunt bottom line, a felony conviction, an illegal alien dodging ICE, and what many are calling nothing more than a slap on the wrist. From Trump Daily Post, former Milwaukee judge Hannah Dugan, who actively helped an illegal alien dodge ICE in the courthouse, got a slap on the wrist. Dugan aided and abetted a criminal illegal alien right inside a courthouse and walked away with 0 prison time and a $5,000 fine, not even probation. This is what happens when the judge activists in the system protect its own. Judges like this need to face real consequences, or this insanity will never stop.
A judge who helped an illegal alien escape ICE and convicted of a felony for it gets a slap on the wrist while regular citizens face the full force of the law.
A slap on the wrist. Absolutely disgraceful. Now here's the establishment version. Straight news breakdown of the felony obstruction case, the judge's excuse, and the court's decision to spare Dugan from prison.
Breaking moments ago, the Wisconsin judge convicted for helping an illegal immigrant evade federal agents has learned her fate. Garrett Tenney here now with what the judge is facing. Hey, Garrett.
Yeah, John, well, this was a landmark case in the fight over the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. And this sentence came down no prison time and just a $5,000 fine for former Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan, which is far less than the 5 years behind bars that she was looking at. U.S. District Judge Lynn Edelman explained that prison time was not necessary given Dugan's decades of public service, saying there is no indication the defendant acted for personal or private gain. This isn't like the cases of public corruption. This is a situation where an otherwise good person, upset by immigration enforcement in this country, a sentiment widely shared, made a bad decision in the moment. Ahead of that sentencing, we also heard from Hannah Dugan for the first time since her trial started back in December, and the former Milwaukee judge expressed no remorse for guiding federal agents away from her courtroom and sending the illegal immigrant they were waiting for out a back door. In fact, she told the judge her acts that day were consistent with community concerns at the courthouse, and she said, "I will not let those minutes define my life's work. It is my intent to return to public service." Now, that return to public service could be any number of things, including a possible return to the bench if her defense team is able to get this verdict overturned on appeal, which is what they've said they are now going to try to do. John?
But if they don't, she can't go back to being a judge. We'll see how it goes. Garrett Tenney with the update from Chicago. Garrett, thank you.
So despite helping an illegal alien slip out the back, the court said decades of public service were enough. Next, the case gets more concrete with the key allegation viewers won't forget. ICE waiting out front while Dugan moved out the back door, the slap on the wrist. Oh, we don't need to see that again. Associated Press confirms the headline the media can't soften. Hannah Dugan spared from prison. Unbelievable. But next, explains why critics say the outcome was baked in from the start. It's been revealed the judge who went soft on ex-Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan is a Democrat appointee.
Judge getting a slap on the wrist and skirting jail time after helping an illegal migrant evade ICE. Instead, Hannah Dugan must pay a $5,000 fine for obstructing justice. Her attorney saying this.
She's lost so much throughout this process. The collateral consequences to her were great, and we appreciate that the judge took that into consideration. We look forward to appealing this case to the 7th Circuit.
The charges stem from an incident last year where Dugan helped an illegal migrant evade federal agents who were at court to take him into custody. Dugan later resigned from the bench after being found guilty. Meanwhile, that migrant was deported after pleading guilty to 1 count of misdemeanor battery.
Pleading guilty to misdemeanor battery. That's who these activist judges are actively helping. Unbelievable. So the moral verdict writes itself in one obscene image. ICE agents waiting at the courthouse while Hannah Dugan hustled Eduardo Flores Ruiz out the back door, then Lynn Edelman stepping in later to mop it all up with a $5,000 fine. That's the activist judicial cartel in full view. Hannah Dugan broke faith with the badge of a judge. Lynn Edelman broke faith with equal justice by treating felony obstruction like a bad afternoon. And remember who had to clean up the mess in the real world? The Trump administration, not the Robe Club in Milwaukee. Trump stood on the South Lawn and blasted the rot exactly right. Terrible. Courts letting world-class criminals stay. We're not allowing it. That is backbone. The cartel protects lawlessness and Trump protects Americans. Enough. No more excuses for judges who turn courthouses into sanctuary tunnels. No more soft-focused lectures about decorum, feelings, or decades of service when the actual act was helping him evade ICE. Hannah Dugan chose ideology over law. Lynn Edelman chose the club over the country. And every parent, every cop, every citizen trying to live in an ordered nation understands the message that sentence sends. Elite lawbreakers get mercy. Americans get the consequences. President Trump is dragging that corruption into the light and forcing the Supreme Court and the country to confront it. Good. Keep the pressure on and put this clip in front of every person who still thinks the activist bench is neutral. And drop your take in the comments if you think a regular American would ever get 0 prison for obstructing federal agents. We'll keep naming names because that back door into Milwaukee opened onto a much bigger scandal. And we have a back door to make sure you get the news that you depend on. I've read your comments and your frustration, and that's why we set up this telephone number to make sure you get notifications directly from me when YouTube doesn't send them. Thousands and thousands of Patriots have already signed up. So make sure you sign up too by texting raw feed to 844-840-4963. And if you want to support our work here, check out the merch shelf below this video. Unbelievable, Judge Dugan. Some super chats here. Curio and Craig and Chris Orr and Marky Mark all dropping super chats. Thank you guys for your support of our work here. Okay, now we're going to moving in to look President Trump destroying Spain at NATO and exposing all of the free riders. So we're going to get to that right now. Spain is a wasted cause. Cut off all trade with Spain and watch them come running back. Donald Trump didn't whisper that in a hallway. He dropped it live at the NATO summit in Turkey, right in front of the same transatlantic freeloaders who spent years smirking while American taxpayers carried their defense bills. And then the humiliation got worse. Trump said the room had tremendous unity, pushed the 5% benchmark, and those leaders who used to posture against him started telling him, "Sir, we love you." That one line tells you everything. The mockers folded, the deadbeats blinked, and one country just found out disrespecting America now comes with a price tag. And this matters for one reason above all: your money. For decades, the old transatlantic scam looted American families so rich European governments could run soft welfare states, neglect their militaries, sneer at our voters, and still sleep under the American security blanket. Friedrich Merz just admitted the con out loud. Europe put in about 20% of NATO's defense resources, while the United States carried roughly 80%. Unacceptable, he said. Exactly. And Trump walked in and snapped the racket right in half, because that 5% benchmark, it's not an abstract summit slogan. It's a bill. A bill for freeloaders who got fat while our factories hollowed out, our debt exploded, and Washington globalists kept telling Americans to shut up and pay more. Mark Carney, of all people, confessed it. Trump has won the argument. Of course he has. Strength works. Leverage works. And when Spain refuses to pull its weight or back America against the world's top state sponsor of terror, Trump makes the consequence plain. No more business as usual. Pay up, stand with us, or get cut off. When Trump says freeloaders get cut off, I think about a 35-year-old man who spent 8 months with blurry vision until doctors found a worm moving in his eye. That horror came after undercooked fish. And the World Health Organization says 1 in 2 affected by parasitic infection prevalence. 1 in 2. A lot of people never connect brain fog, chronic fatigue, pain that won't go away, or IBS-like symptoms to severe chronic conditions. Parasite Purge spotlights Jonathan Otto's full-spectrum parasite elimination protocol, a typical cleanse alternative with a science-backed parasite formula plus red and near-infrared light therapy for healthy cellular function and natural detoxification processes. You also get free bonuses, including the 10-day intensive parasite detox protocol to prepare your body, support the cleansing process, and maximize your results. Go to purgemyparasitesnow.com and use code NNN45 to save 45% for a limited time. Don't subsidize hidden invaders either. And here's the detail the legacy media will bury under summit wallpaper. Trump did not just demand 5%. He singled out Spain by name. He said, "We don't want to do any trade business with Spain anymore." Then he doubled down with including visits. See, that's not cocktail party diplomacy. That's a president showing every NATO capital exactly how America First works in real time. I'm going to pull up the reactions because the public instantly grasps what the press refuses to admit. Europe only understands pressure, and Trump just applied it with both hands. Trump sharply criticized NATO for failing to support action against Iran, then directed his administration to immediately cut off all trade and partnership with Spain, calling the country useless.
I want to thank Mark. He's been a great Secretary General of NATO. I'm not happy with NATO because of what they did with Greenland, and I'm not happy with NATO because of the fact that they didn't want to help us with the #1 state sponsor of terror, that's Iran. They were unwilling to help us. Now, in all fairness, I didn't speak to Mark about it. I think if I did, it might have been different, but we didn't need help. But I was really testing. I wanted to see whether or not they'd be there, and the answer is they were. I spoke to Germany, I spoke to France, spoke to UK, spoke to Italy, I didn't speak to Spain. Spain is a wasted cause. We don't want to do any trade business with Spain anymore, by the way. I'd like you to cut it off. Spain is a terrible partner in NATO. They don't participate, they don't pay. I don't want anything to do with Spain. Cut off all trade with Spain, please, including visits. Okay, we don't want anything to do. Watch them come running back. Oh, they'll come running back. They treat this man terribly, and this man's a good man too, great man. They're lucky they have him. But Spain doesn't agree to anything, and you shouldn't carry him. I mean, you sort of automatically carry because you're protecting an area, so they're there. So they probably figured they have to protect us, right? But we don't have to. We don't have to trade with them. I don't want to do any more trade with them. All right? Yes, take it immediately. Don't even talk to them. They're hopeless. Bad people, because they have everybody else going and paying and working. In Spain, in particular Spain, there are a couple of others, but in particular Spain, they're open about it. They're hostile about it, and let's see how hostile they remain when they call up and they, please, we want to trade with you, sir. We want to trade with you, sir. They make so much money with us, and we're going to see that they make a lot less. I want no business with them. So, other than that, we're having the big meeting in a little while.
Other than that, yeah. So Trump didn't just call Spain out. He threatened to cut them off and dared them to come crawling back. Now, even Canada's prime minister is admitting the obvious. Trump hasn't just pushed the debate. He's already won it.
Part of the point I made to President Trump when we spoke a few days ago is that it's not just he's winning the argument, he's won the argument. Countries recognize that they need to take more responsibility, see the direct threats.
So Carney said Trump just won the argument. Next, Germany's chancellor goes further, admitting past U.S. presidents got ignored while Trump finally forced Europe to listen.
Kann ich da abschließend nichts dazu sagen, aber diese Gespräche werden geführt. Wir wissen seit Trump eins, dass sehr
I don't
häufig...
speak German, but he says Trump often applies pressure through a very forceful approach. The last American president politely asked us, please finally do a little more for your own defense, but across Europe those requests fell on deaf ears. Now there's an American president who says rather bluntly, enough is enough. And I can't blame him. Just look at the numbers. The United States spends around 80% of NATO's defense resources, while Europe accounts for 20%. That's unacceptable. So he confessed what everybody knew. Europe got comfortable letting America carry the load, and behind closed doors, Trump says those same NATO leaders were suddenly pouring on the praise.
The respect and the love in the room. And it's love really for the country, for our country. I don't want to say me because you'll say, oh, he's so conceited. He's such a conceited person. But they do. I mean, you know, they like the job I'm doing. They said, we love you. These are grown people saying that. Isn't that nice? Maybe, I don't know, maybe they're trying to get to me. And the way they did, because there was tremendous unity in that room. And I urge all nations to accelerate their plans.
So after the flattery comes the real test, paying up. Here's Trump laying out the 5% target, calling out the rich allies, and warning the freeloading era is over.
In the working session this morning, we discussed the progress other members are making toward the 5% target, and they're making great progress. Many of these countries are very rich, by the way. We don't have to feel sorry for them. But it doesn't mean they're properly protected. There's a big difference. Some have truly answered the call, and others are making big changes and will be answering the call. I think I can say in all cases they're going to be answering the call, and we'll be taking in over $1 trillion a year toward defense, and that's a tremendous amount of money. It's a big up. They were at 2%. They were actually at 1%. I got them to 2%. Then I wanted to get them to 5%, and we got up to 5% the last time. And they're, you know, just again, if you could have seen the respect and the love in the room, and it's love really for the country, for our country. I don't want to say me because you'll say, oh, he's so conceited. He's such a conceited person. But they do. I mean, you know, they like the job I'm doing. They said, we love you. These are grown people saying that. Isn't that nice? Maybe, I don't know, maybe they're trying to get to me. And the way they did, because there was tremendous unity in that room. And I urge all nations to accelerate their plans to get the benchmark as quickly as possible. The benchmark is going to be that 5% number. That's the number it should have been for years. As a result of the commitment we achieved last year, defense spending of other NATO members surged by more than almost $150 billion in 2025, and much of that money is being spent on American-made equipment. They all want American-made equipment.
So Trump makes the benchmark plain 5% and fast, and he wraps up by saying America standing inside NATO is stronger than ever.
Respect for our country, but now they have more respect for our country than they've ever had before. Thank you all very much. We'll see you back.
So after the summit victory lap, allies are showing respect because pressure works. Reuters picks it up with their Trump detailing the tremendous unity.
There was tremendous unity in that room. And I urge all nations to accelerate their plans to get the benchmark as quickly as possible. The benchmark is going to be that 5% number. That's the number it should have been for years in the working.
So the peak of the whole showdown came when Trump described NATO leaders telling him, sir, we love you, right after forcing them towards a 5% defense benchmark and right after putting Spain on notice. That was the moral collapse of the old globalist bluff. Emmanuel Macron's crowd, the Brussels bureaucrats, the smug think tank class, the anti-Trump media machine All of them spent years painting Donald J. Trump as the problem while they protected the actual problem. Rich countries mooching off American power. And then Mark Carney blurted out the confession. Trump is not just winning the argument, he's won the argument. And he's right. Trump leads, everyone else reacts, and the freeloaders who ignored polite requests from past presidents just learned that blunt American strength gets results fast. So here's the line in the sand. NATO members hit the 5% target, or President Trump keeps turning the screws. Spain learns that sneering at America and ducking responsibility carries a cost, or Spain keeps getting isolated until it comes running back exactly the way Trump said it would. And every Republican on Capitol Hill needs to back this doctrine with steel, not excuses, because the parasites of the old order never quit. They just stall. They wriggle. They hide behind process and summit language and glossy photos. Well, not this time. Trump bent the whole room back towards American interests in Turkey. He praised the countries that stepped up, blasted the deadbeats, scaled up U.S. production, and made clear that on Iran, this White House does not beg cowards for permission. If you want more of that, send this segment to somebody still trapped in the old NATO fairy tale and drop your take in the comments. And keep your eye on Spain. When Trump says, watch them come running back, he usually means it. And I mean to make sure you get the news. And that's why I set up this telephone number, 844-840-4963, and thousands of patriots who've already texted the words raw feed to that number to get the inside track and the news that YouTube refuses to send you in those notifications. I've seen your comments, and that's why I set this number up for you guys. And if you want to support our work, go to the merch shelf just below this video. Okay, we're going to be moving on to our final story of the evening now. Some crazy billboard. $4,000 billboard about the border. And a massive bust in New Jersey. An illegal vote scam. It just got exposed. Yeah, of course, they always say, oh, there's no such thing as voter fraud. Until DHS catches them red-handed. The Department of Homeland Security just torched the left's favorite lie with one name, Marian Charatoon. DHS says Charatoon registered to vote in New Jersey, falsely declared he was a United States citizen, and then voted in the 2022 general election for U.S. House. Not a theory, not a media fairy tale. A charged non-citizen, an actual ballot, an actual federal election. And on the same week, billboards near the border push birthright citizenship with one obscene line. Deliveries starting at $4,000. Votes from foreign nationals, citizenship sold like a coupon. And Trump saw the scam early, and now the system just confessed it in public. And this matters because the ruling class built two pipelines in the same country. One pipeline steals political power. The other auctions citizenship. Democrats scream about democracy and then fight proof of citizenship and voter ID while DHS arrests a man for illegally voting in New Jersey. Senate Republicans are still dragging their feet while Trump hammers the Save America Act as the most important bill. And flat out says correctly, we're a third world country in some states with respect to voting. And he's right. The numbers bury the propaganda. 76% of black Americans back voter ID. 82% of Latino voters back it. 85% of white voters back it. That means the people are united and the political class is exposed. And then just look south. Billboards advertise deliveries starting at $4,000. Peter Schweitzer says more than 1,000 birth tourism companies operate in China, and an estimated 1 million U.S. citizens are being raised there today. That's not immigration. That is dispossession by loophole. And when billboards near the border can sell deliveries starting at $4,000, You better believe the same machine profits from keeping seniors trapped in bad Medicare plans by confusion. And that scam has a cousin, the Medicare Confusion Industrial Complex. Chapter cuts through it. They're simple by design, one call, one advisor. They look at your doctors, your prescriptions, your whole situation, and tell you the truth with no propaganda, just facts for seniors. No maze, no bureaucratic shell game. They work for you, not big insurance. If you're already on the right plan, don't worry, they'll say so. If not, they can help you switch. It's free, and it literally takes under 20 minutes. Call Chapter at 910-728-4109. That's the number you see right there on your screen. Last year, people who found new plans with Chapter saved an average of $1,100. Clarity? It beats bureaucratic racket every single time. And here's the detail the open border crowd can't talk their way around. It's not just about ballots and paperwork, it's about bodies. Pennsylvania State Trooper Michael Paharia Jr., a 44-year-old public servant who moved home to care for his cancer-stricken mother, he's dead after a fiery crash. The man charged is Michael Bond, a Haitian illegal alien who ICE moved to detain. I'm about to show you all the receipts because the same machine that shrugs at illegal votes also shrugs at American funerals. DHS and ICE have just arrested a non-citizen who illegally voted in New Jersey, and that's exactly why we need the Save America Act. Time is running out. Nuke the filibuster and pass it. Let's check in with President Trump here.
The Save America Act. Everybody wants it. Everybody is it, including Democrats. 87% of Democrats want it. Not the leaders, because they want to cheat. Their policy is so bad, they're unelectable.
Marian Sharatoon registered to vote in New Jersey, falsely declaring that he was a U.S. citizen and then voted in the general election. So the New Jersey arrest puts the real name on the voter fraud Democrats keep pretending never happens. Now the numbers, 76% of black Americans back voter ID along with huge majorities across the board.
Take a look here. Favorite photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote. So something of a non.
Yeah, but it's controversial for the ruling class who wants to retain power. Republicans in the Senate, even Democrats, they all are terrified of having a legitimate voting system. No. Republicans and Democrats alike, they want to preserve the cheating because then they can control the power. It's as simple as that. That's why it's not going anywhere. So the public is with voter ID. Next, Trump takes it further, calling the Save America Act the most important bill on the table.
I'm a big fan of many bills, but I'm a much bigger fan of the most important bill. It's called the Save America Act. It's voter ID, it's proof of citizenship, and it's no mail-in ballots, other than it would be very, easy on this, frankly, but military, illness, disability, vacations, you can't get there, you're away, business. But other than that, you should go and vote. And if you don't, people cheat. You look at California, look at what happened to this Spencer Pratt thing. I mean, with the votes, hundreds of thousands, probably millions of votes gone. Well, he didn't make the runoff. He was so far ahead of third place, it was ridiculous. Maybe ahead of first place. But look at that. Look at what's happened with Steve Hilton. Had the U.S. Attorney not started an investigation, they would have gotten Steve Hilton out too. So we're a third world country in some states with respect to voting.
Third world country. Yeah. Meanwhile, he's opening another front in the citizenship fight with Supreme Court rehearing the push over birth tourism. Trump announces he's filing for a rehearing with the Supreme Court on birthright citizenship after Anchor Baby Hospital was discovered in Texas. Signs and billboards are being put up all over our southern border in Mexico advertising birthright citizenship with deliveries starting at $4,000.
You can pay $3,950 if you want to have birth naturally, make your child a U.S. citizen.
Are you kidding?
Your foreign board C-section, $5,525. I spoke with Ken Paxton on this, and he showed me pictures where there are houses in Texas that look residential. So it could be your neighbor's house, and you go inside the house, and there are rows of bassinets where Chinese women are coming, giving birth to a child, then going back to the Chinese Communist Party, educating their child there, and they have U.S. citizenship, which could amount to more than 1 million new voters in this country over time.
Only a stupid nation would allow this to happen. They also have a website, havemybabyintexas.com. By the way, this big border advertisement right there is miles away from the border. So their audience are people that are crossing back and forth. And by the way, if you think it's just Mexicans no, that's just a checkpoint right there. People are traveling from all across the world to come to Mexico to go pregnant. They could have their baby here in the state of Texas. And, as a result of that, their kids are going to be American citizens. Congress has to codify this law.
Yeah, and
that's what they need to do.
this billboard down and the website. And this is obviously catering to a Spanish-speaking audience. The ones that I mentioned were separate and apart. And Abbott is prosecuting those, and those are Chinese birth tourism.
I think we need the federal government to go over social media sites, not just billboards. Billboards are easy to spot, obviously, by their definition. But what about other advertisements are in other countries, giving them a pathway? We saw that with Come to America. It's never been easier during the Biden years. Now it's
So the Texas birth tourism pipeline is bad enough on its own. Peter Schweitzer lays the scale out of China even bigger, with more than 1,000 companies gaming U.S. citizenship.
In China alone, we have identified more than 1,000 birth tourism companies that are almost exclusively focused on the United States. Our federal government does not track this information because there is no centralized collection of information on the nationality of parents who are giving birth. China, however, has done estimates themselves, and the numbers are eye-popping. The Chinese government gave an estimate a few years ago. Their estimate was that on average 50,000 Chinese citizens a year were giving birth in the United States or at U.S. territories like Saipan. There are others like Professor Salvatore Barbonis from Australia who believes that number is higher. He's estimated 100,000. There was a research firm in China that estimated in 2018 alone 180,000 managed to give birth in the United States. No one knows what the actual number is, and that is the challenge that we face today. If you do the math, if you look at the ramping up of this activity over the last 13 years, and you take the ballpark estimates, you are looking at roughly 1 million, quote unquote, U.S. citizens who are being raised in the People's Republic of China today. If you look at the websites of these birth tourism companies, they will tell you who is hiring them. These are not political dissidents. These are military officers, people from the Ministry of Propaganda, people that are high-ranking officials in the Chinese Communist Party. In other words, these are part of the CCP establishment.
So it's not random abuse, it's organized, industrial, and foreign-backed, shifting from election integrity to public safety. Next, the deadly price of sanctuary policies. Blood on the roads. Haitian illegal alien with Massachusetts CDL slaughters Pennsylvania state trooper in a fiery crash. The hero trooper, Michael Pahira Jr., 44 years old, moved home to care for his mother. He's dead, crushed by a semi driven by a 33-year-old Haitian illegal who should never have been here.
In the spotlight, Michael Bond, an illegal immigrant from Haiti, was arrested last week for a crash that killed a Pennsylvania state trooper. Bond has been charged with vehicular homicide and involuntary manslaughter, amongst other charges. Now, ICE says it lodged a detainer to keep him in jail. Let's bring in border czar Tom Homan. There's just too many of these stories that we cover, but they're out there, so that's why we do. Here's what the Department of Transportation said. Department issued a final rule stopping unqualified and unvetted foreign drivers from obtaining licenses to drive commercial trucks and buses. States that operate recklessly and fail to enforce our common sense rules will be held accountable. And if you could pull up call for number 4, please. These are other incidents. I'm just going to put them up on the screen for people to see that have happened that have a similar story. You're trying to stamp it out. Tell us where we are on that.
Well, look, we've removed thousands of illegal aliens with CDLs. We're working very closely with many states. DHS is working hand in hand with Sean Duffy and his department. So the problem is we're working very well with red states. Blue states are still a struggle, right? Places like New York, I mean, ICE and CBP can't even get access to the DMV database to run the checks. So, the continuation of sanctuary states, sanctuary cities, thank God, Todd Blanche is suing these cities as they come up, and we got to keep suing them. But we're out there, Dana, enforcing law. We're out there looking for these illegal alien CDLs. In the last 5 days, ICE has arrested over 10,000 illegal aliens, which is a record.
10,000. The crackdown and the call out of blue state protection for illegal drivers. Now we end with a man they took from Pennsylvania trooper Michael Pahira, honored after a preventable tragedy.
And hundreds of people coming in all morning long. Michael Pahira's obituary, it says that his lifelong calling was service. He's also on the fire department here. He graduated from the Pennsylvania State Police Academy in 2007 as part of the 124th Cadet class. Over nearly 2 decades, he served with Troop N in Lehighton, Troop L in Schuylkill Haven and Frackville. He was a patrol officer and later a motor carrier enforcement inspector. Those who knew him describe him as someone who had the highest integrity, professionalism, a commitment to the communities he protected. This morning, we spoke with Gail Kovovich.
So the low-bearing fact in this whole scandal is still the ugliest one. Deliveries starting at $4,000. Think about that. While Senate Republicans hide behind procedure, American citizenship gets hawked on billboards near the southern border like a weekend discount. Chief Justice John Roberts in the Supreme Court cracked the door, and Donald Trump just kicked the issue back into the center ring with a rehearing demand. Good, and he should, because when Peter Schweitzer identifies more than 1,000 birth tourism companies in China, and when DHS arrests Marian Sharatun for illegally voting after falsely claiming citizenship, only one conclusion survives. Democrats built a chaos machine, weak Republicans tolerated it, and Trump is the one man counterattacking before the country gets sold off piece by piece. So here's the choice, and it's really not complicated. Either you stand with Donald Trump, the Save America Act, proof of citizenship, voter ID in a country that still belongs to its own citizens, or you stand with the racket. See, the racket, it lets Marian Sharatun cast a ballot in New Jersey. The racket that lets deliveries starting at $4,000 advertise the liquidation of citizenship. The racket that left Trooper Michael Paharia's family with a folded flag in a grave because sanctuary state politicians treated lawbreakers better than Americans. Senate Republicans need to stop hiding. Nuke the filibuster. Pass the Save America Act now and force every Democrat to vote for cheating in the open. And force every coward in the GOP to pick a side. If this segment hits you in the gut, then send it to one person who still thinks the system is normal, because it isn't. Trump is moving the country where it needs. So, and I want to move you to make sure you get the news. So that's why I set up this number, 844-840-4963. Thousands and thousands of patriots have already texted the words raw feed to that number, and they're getting the notifications that YouTube never sends because I'm sending them to you instead. And if you want to support our work, go to the merch shelf right below this video. All right, folks, that is a wrap tonight. Thank you guys for joining the Next News Network. Thank you for your super chats, your support. And shout out to Valerie, who I met in Milwaukee yesterday. Thank you for coming up and saying hello and not being shy about it. You know, when I am out in public and I get a chance to meet you guys, it is absolutely an honor. And it reminds me, because I sit here in the studio and, day after day, me and Brian, we work so hard to bring you this news. And I'm just staring at a camera. I'm presenting. I'm breaking narratives. I'm breaking news for you guys. And when I see you guys and I meet you face to face, it only invigorates me and just reminds me how important that this work is. Because at the end of the day, I sit here, I present, I break the narratives, like I said, and then the cycle continues every single day. Because I'm just so focused on the work in front of me. But you guys are there on the other side of this camera and you're listening, you're paying attention, you're sharing the news, and see, every single piece of news that we produce here is designed so that you have a tool to help wake up America. That is my mission. That's the mission that God has placed upon my heart. We all play a specific role in this effort to save this republic. My specific role is to produce the content that helps wake up America. Valerie, you work with the Wisconsin GOP and all the women there. And you help with all their merchandise and you help with the organizing. That's your role. And whatever your role is behind this camera, don't discount it, because we're all part of the same fight to save this country. That being said, thank you for joining us on this edition of Between the Headlines, and we'll see you tomorrow.